Hello, this is Gary Aldridge with Leveraging You, and this is our podcast that we share with business owners. I try to bring in subject matter experts in their field to add value to business owners. The whole intent is to help you maximize your business value. I want to bring in people that do things that I don't do, so you don't hear from me all the time. I want you to hear from other people. And today we've got a special guest with us. They're all special, but we have Stephanie Richardson with us, and Stephanie and I met through networking in Nashville. Nashville's a huge networking town, and we met through some common friends. And I thought she would add a lot of value to business owners today, and so we're just going to chat for a bit. Stephanie, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you got from here to there or there to here.
Sure. So I have a background in psychology, and I was a therapist and a licensed professional counselor. Worked in the counseling field for over 10 years. And I worked with children, families, teenagers, adults, and even inmates in the mental health prison here in Nashville.
Okay, we'll probably won't focus on that part today, maybe another time, but yeah.
So I've seen and heard it all, let me just say.
I bet you have.
So that was my original training, was as a therapist. And I did that for 10 years. And then I decided I wanted to be a mom. And so I knew that I could not keep up the demands of that schedule and be the kind of mom that I wanted to be. So I decided to resign from that career, and I had been pursuing a career in direct sales on the side as my little side hustle. About 5 years into that was when I decided to make that my full-time job when I had my daughter, so that I could be home with her and not put her in daycare and not have someone else raise her. So that direct sales company I continue to work with, and I've been with that company for 27 years. So a long time.
Are you still connected with them? Do you still do anything with that? Oh,
yes.
Super.
Yes, I still have a team and do parties and online sales and earn incentive trips every year. And
great.
So yeah, that's the second part of my life. And then I was at a networking event actually for that business, the women's event, and a woman coach came up to me and she said, hey, she coaches other women, I should say. And she said, hey, why have you not started your own coaching business? You are different than a lot of coaches. You have a background as a therapist, and you have a background in sales and developing others, because she knew I had built a multi-million-dollar a year sales business from my home and had 1,600 people on my team. I had developed 80 leaders. So it was a big
business. Wow. 1,600. That's amazing.
So I had no idea when it started it was going to turn into such a big business. But she said, why have you not started a coaching business? And I said, I don't know. Never really thought about it. Right. So that was the first nudge that I got. And then one of my supervisees, I had done her licensure supervision, came up from my house one day, and I both had left the company where I had been her boss, and she was pursuing another career, and she came over and said, hey, I'm going to start my own private practice in counseling. I said, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. That's awesome. We'd known each other for 20 years. And she said, yeah, but there's this one problem. And I said, well, what? She said, I hired this business coach and I don't like her.
Uh-oh.
She said, she doesn't know me the way you know me. She doesn't push me the way I know you'll push me. Would you coach me as I open my private practice? And I said, sure, but I don't have a coaching business. So That's how it
Sure.
all started.
Yes, like many of us, that yes, I'll do that. What do you want me to do?
I said, I don't know how much to charge you. She said, what if I just pay you what I'm paying her? Sure, that's fine. So those two nudges helped me take the next step of starting my own coaching business. And so I started going to networking events here in Nashville and showing up consistently week after week and building relationships with people. And that's where my coaching business took off. And one of the things that I bring into from my counseling background into my coaching is I know that a lot of business coaches focus on just business results and they neglect the other areas of a person's life in setting goals in those areas where they're all intertwined. So if you are having health challenges, it's going to affect your business results. And if you're having relationships challenges, it's going to affect your business results and vice versa. So I focus on 6 areas
Wow.
of a person's life. I focus on business, of course, financial, personal growth, health and fitness, spiritual, and I'm blanking on the 6th one, personal growth.
Okay.
So those are the 6 areas that we set goals around. And so what I do is I move people from where they are to where they want to be in each of those areas that they want to focus on. Sometimes they're very satisfied with an area and we don't need to address that one, but sometimes they want to improve an area. And so I hold them accountable around those goals.
That's great. I was just telling a new client, we're going back and forth, just been working with them a few weeks. I said, accountability is everything. And it's everybody needs it, but nobody wants it. They want it for the other guy, but not for me. Right. So like, yeah, you need someone to hold you accountable, but I don't want anybody holding me accountable. But it's a good thing. Accountability is a good thing. So you just think about all the coaches. We need advisors, whether you call them coaches or advisors, in
Right.
every aspect of our lives. We need them, like you said, we need them spiritually in our faith. We need them in our family. We need them in friends. We need them in finances. We need them in fitness. We need them all the way around. I call them like the F's, 5 F's. I said faith, family, friends, finances, and fitness. I think are kind of how I break things down. That helps me remember them. So that's what I look at 5 F's. Yeah.
That's great. And a lot of times I'm working with CEOs or solopreneurs, business owners who may not have someone who they are reporting to. And so they tend to let themselves off the hook and say, I'll do that tomorrow or I'll do that next week. And when you have that accountability piece and somebody's asking you and following up with you on those goals, you're more likely to achieve them and build momentum towards the next goal.
I focus more on the business and the financial side. I get involved with everything a dollar touches because I've been a CFO for 30 years. So whatever dollar comes in or dollar goes out, I get involved with that, and that touches every area, right? It touches sales and operations. It's not just accounting, but I get involved with HR a lot in technology. So I say all that to say, some years ago, had a client, and we're rocking along on the business front. And then one day he tells me he's going through a divorce. And so we stopped talking about business and we start talking about that. And, I could see the stress that was on him, was going on. So we talked about that, not all the time, but off and on. I don't have a counseling background, but I like to think I kind of helped with it a little bit anyway.
I'm sure you did.
I don't know. We'll see. But he's on the other side of that now, and he's doing great. So yeah,
Good.
that's good. Yeah, but I didn't realize it when I started doing what I do. But the personal side is every bit as entwined with the business side. They are really inseparable. When things aren't going well at home, then that puts stress at work, and vice versa. The reverse of that, another story, and we'll talk. And I want to hear some stories from you. This is one where I worked somewhere some years ago, then I left, and I heard about this later. The lead sales guy left
Mm.
because of work. And the CEO's going like, well, where are you? I've been looking around the office and I can't find you. He said, I went home. I said, what are you doing? He said, why aren't you here? He says, I'm not going to work with you anymore. You are stressing me out.
Mm.
And I can't sleep. It's affecting my marriage. It's affecting my
Right.
kids. It's affecting my health. I'm not doing this anymore. And the CEO said, well, come on back. We need you. I'll pay you more money. And the sales guy says, I can sell anything. I can make more money. That's not the problem.
Right.
You're the problem. Can you imagine somebody telling the CEO that? But he did. And they were
Good for
able to work.
him.
They were able to work it out, and they worked out something. And he stayed with them. I don't know if he's still there or not. It's been a long time, but he stayed there for a long time after that. But it came to a head, and he had to work it out with him. Same thing happened with another guy with the same CEO, but that's all a different story. I'd rather hear about you. Yeah, so that tells you something.
It does tell you a lot about the CEO.
Tells you a lot. If it happens once, it's kind of like, okay, it's an accident. But if it's repetitive, then it's a pattern. So anyhow, back to you. Tell me about you.
No, I was just going to say that if you're crushing your goals at work, great. But if your relationship is falling apart at home with your spouse, not so great. So
Not so great.
I have several clients who we check in on, okay, when were your date nights this month? Where are you planning to go? What are you going to do? And just to make sure that that is a part of their life. And
that's great.
maybe they have more than one child and they want to spend one-on-one attention with each child, because that's one of the things we used to recommend when I worked in the counseling field, was that parents spend one-on-one attention with each child. So how are they doing little dates with their children and outings, and to strengthen those relationships? And are they putting their phone away and setting boundaries about not being on their phone in the evening and working so that they can be with their family? So there's a real estate agent that I coach, and he's the best dad, and he puts his phone away at a certain time, and he tells all of his clients, my phone will be on do not disturb from this time to this time every evening, because I am being daddy and I'm having dinner and doing baths and all of that. He has 3 young children.
Good for him.
Exactly. And then he'll say, I'll check it again before I'm down for the evening, but just know between 4 and 8, you're probably not going to reach me. So setting those boundaries is good.
Well, you're making me want to expand my coaching services to include more stuff, which I've done. I just haven't made a point of it, because case in point, again, working with a client, and everybody's a client, right? And so we're talking about business, and he really couldn't focus on it. And he said, I know I was supposed to do this or that, or we're supposed to meet. He said, I really can't. He said, my partner's having some health issues and this kind of thing. I said, go do that.
Right.
We can meet anytime. This is the business guy talking. This is just business. You go take care, of your family.
Right.
We'll deal with this when you get back. And just last week, talked with a guy who's much younger than I am, and he's talking about spending time with his kid and everything, and trying to find time. I said, make that time.
Yes.
I said, because here I can tell you, it flies by and you can't get it back. Make that time with that child. That child will remember that. They'll also remember if you don't spend time with them.
Right.
So spend time with them. So it's going like, okay, I'll do that. So I'm going to do more of that.
Okay, good.
Tell me, I've seen on your website, and at the end, I want your contact information. I want you to share it with everybody. But you do a lot of different things. So tell us about some of the different things you do. And I'm preface that with the coaching and the disc and the speaking, but tell us a little bit about the stuff that you do. And then after that, I want you to tell me some stories.
Okay. So I work with a lot of CEOs and business owners and entrepreneurs and do one-on-one coaching with them in those 6 areas. So that's one piece that I do. And then I also am a disc consultant. And so one of the things I do is I will give disc to employers who want to communicate better with their employees. So I'll come in and give it to the entire team and then teach them how to talk to each other, because most people speak to other people the way they want to be communicated to instead of adjusting to that person. And so I've worked with a lot of companies on that and just trying to help people understand each other better. And a lot of times, one department might be throwing another department under the bus, and you can help them learn how to communicate better. Or someone might be struggling with an employee and they need to know what's driving that employee and how to communicate with them. So I work on those things. I also do some team building activities. I have a game called the Leadership Game that's focused on John Maxwell's leadership principles. That is an amazing game that takes 2 hours to play. I've done it for a lot of staff retreats.
Good.
And it's so engaging that no one will look at their phone for 2 hours, which says a lot.
Wow, that says a lot right there. Yeah.
And
I was going to say, do you collect the phones beforehand and put them in a bucket or something?
No, but it is the best tool for opening up transparent communication with teams, because a lot of times people think a certain way in their head about the company or the direction or the challenges, but they don't get an opportunity to get it out in a productive environment. And so what the game does is it focuses on personal growth, but also team growth. And when you're finished playing it, the CEO will know exactly what direction they need to go in, what the challenges are of the organization. And I've had several teams play it more than once. They play it every 6 months or once a year, but they've seen the value of it.
Wow.
And the dynamic has changed. And I've seen the entire spectrum of emotions, from laughter and high fives to even a few tears because someone's heart has been touched. So it's a great tool that I recommend for teams. And then I'd come in and also do team training. I have access to lots of John Maxwell's material as a John Maxwell certified coach, and I can pull from that material to train on leadership and communication and those types of topics. But I also write a lot of my own training myself. And so I've had an HR company come to me and say, hey, here are 8 core values. Can you write a training for each one and come in the first Friday of every month and deliver this to our staff? Absolutely. So I write a lot of training as well that I come in and deliver to companies, a lot of times on goal setting and mindset and belief, different things like that, different topics like those.
You talked about communication, and I think we all communicate in the same, well, let me back up. I'm trying to say this right. While we all might speak the same language, we speak it differently.
We do.
And many times I've noticed this in my career. I've got what I'll call broker communication between 2 different departments. Marketing has its own language, and information technology has its own language, and they don't connect. They don't. And so marketing will say, we need you to do this, this, and this. And the IT person's nodding, but I'm saying like, wait, no, you're not getting it yet. Let's go back over this a little bit more. And we have to kind of go through it a few times, because people don't like to say, I don't understand what you're saying. They just say they don't want to feel vulnerable or like they didn't get it. And so I'll broker that. I also remember working with a client, and he was telling me that he wanted me to work on a project, and I really didn't understand it. I asked him again. He got real kind of tense, and he explained it to me. And then I asked him again. He was like, he said, I know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know what your problem is. And I said, no problem, sir. I got it. And I left, and I never worked on it because I never knew what it really was that he wanted me to do. And he never asked me about it again, and I never did it. And so it didn't get done. But I was like, okay. The message I got was, do not ask questions. That was the message I got, and so he went on his way and I went on mine, and I never did it.
Well, there's a franchise owner that I've worked with in the area, and she told me after I gave the disc to her and all of her employees, and then I met with each one of them individually and went over the results and told them what their strengths were. And we also created a plan of opportunity for growth for each person individually. And then I met with the entire team and said, okay, who's this style and this style? And these are communication do's and don'ts for each style. She told me afterwards, she said, that was the best investment I have ever made in my team
Wow.
because
Wow.
my team is collaborating more than they ever have. And one of my employees who I was really struggling with communication wise, we are on the same page now because I know how to
Wow.
speak to her. So it was critical for them to really move to the next phase of where they wanted to go as a team, but they needed to know how to talk to each other.
That's amazing. We all speak the same language. We do it differently. Um, I remember going to a doctor, which I don't go to anymore, and he's explaining all these medical terms to me and all these numbers with all my blood work. And I don't speak medical. I don't speak doctor. And I asked him a couple times, and he just looked at me like, well, of course, it's so and so, and it's this and this and this. And I'm like, got the message was, do not ask questions. He was talking his language.
Right.
And I'll tell you where I learned this. And now this is a story. I was doing the same thing the wrong way with a client. She was a nurse practitioner. She and her husband are great friends of mine. She was a client for many years. And so I'm explaining her financials to her, and I'm going through a statement of cash flows, and I'm explaining it in accounting terms. Cash provided by operating activities, cash provided by financial activities, cash provided by investment activities. And she didn't understand. And so we're going back and forth, and she's like, I don't understand. What's this mean? And I would say the same thing in the same way, using the same language. And after a few rounds of that, it got kind of tense. We're both really talking about this. We're both really high D people. I used to train with her and her husband doing triathlon some years ago. It's a whole other story. But it kind of started elevating. I could feel that tension rising. And then all of a sudden it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I did one of those V8 moves. And I was like, Gary, you're not speaking her language. If she was talking to me in her nurse practitioner language, I wouldn't understand it.
Right.
And I'm talking to her as a CPA. So I changed right on the spot. And I said, this is the cash you have after you've paid your bills and your people, but before we pay the bank. Okay.
There you go.
Got that. This is the cash you have after we pay the bank, but before we pay you. Got that. This is how much cash you have left over after we paid you. Got it. She's not stupid. She's brilliant, actually. It's just a different language. But I explained it in terms she could understand, and then the tension came down, and we could do business, and life was good. So
But
I
the
learned
key was
it the hard way.
you had the key was you had the insight to know that you needed to adjust. And that's the thing about DISC is a lot of people don't have the self-awareness and the insight to know how they need to adapt and adjust to the other person's style and what they need. So part of the DISC is knowing yourself, but also knowing what the other styles need.
Right. But why am I always the one that has to adjust?
We all have to adjust, Gary.
Seems like I'm the one that's going to adjust all the time. Tell us an example please tell us an example of you going into a new client, and like, for me, I go in, I don't even know what I'm going to find when I get there until you kind of get in and ask and observe and listen and stuff. And what were some of the challenges that you discovered, the opportunities, and how you addressed those, and what the benefit was, and things of what was their pain, what was your solution, what was their benefit?
So I could tell you different stories about different clients I've worked with in different areas of their life. I will say that there's a realtor that I have coached who has completely made a turnaround in his mindset and has become extremely positive. He hated to read before he met me. And now he is an avid reader and
Wow.
personal growth. He's like, what did you do to me? I said, I don't know. We just talk a lot about different books, and we've done some book studies together as well. One of the best books that he got the most out of was Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. It's a John Maxwell book. And he said, I thought I was communicating with people and my clients until I read this book. So that really helped him learn how to adapt and adjust to his clients' needs and really hearing what they needed. So that's been really helpful. And then his mindset is very positive. His wife has recognized that. His mother has recognized that he's very different than the person he was. I've been coaching him for almost 4 years now. And
Wow.
a lot of people come in and they stay with me for a while because of that relationship I built with them and because of the return that they see in their life of not just their business goals being met, because he's doing great as a realtor, but also their personal goals.
Super. Super. I try to teach people it doesn't matter how well I think I communicated my message to you if you don't understand it and
Right.
can process it and execute it. And, like the case of that business owner I was talking about, he was clear in his mind what he wanted, but it didn't matter because it wasn't clear in my mind, so he didn't get what he wanted. But that's true. Anybody speaking, I think, I don't care if they're in a classroom or in business or, in a church or something. I've heard people explain stuff, when it's really complicated, and then nobody gets it, but nobody says anything. They just walk out. Versus hearing somebody who can teach it, take complicated issues and teach them in a way where people can understand them, which is what I try to do, but doesn't always work. But I'm constantly thinking, what do I need to do? If I don't connect this way, maybe I got to go in a different door or a different window, just depends on how that person is. And then one thing I think that helps, if you come at it with this mindset of, and people will do this, it's either people think it's all about me or it's all about you.
To be all that.
If I'm thinking it's all about you at the other person, now I'm focused on how do I connect with you? How do I present my content or my message or my point? How do I get it across to you? And it's not like a hammer hitting a nail. It's really, takes knowing how, but like what you're talking about, learning how the other people communicate, how they receive information.
Right.
Like I learn by hearing better than reading, although I hear you, I need to read more, but it's on my calendar every day. It's on there, but I'm not doing it. But I have to get better. I have to do better at it.
Do you need some accountability around that, Gary?
No.
I know, good coach.
Unfortunately, you're probably right. No, you're definitely right. I certainly do. Yeah, I know you do. But I'm sure you're full. So I could get some accountability, or I could just pick up the book and read it.
Right.
I could do that. I could pay somebody to say, "Did you read the book?" Yeah, so I could do that.
The other thing that you mentioned that I haven't really touched on yet is the speaking part. I do keynote speaking, but I also am a certified world-class certified speaking coach. And so I teach people public speaking skills. And a lot of people think, oh, keynote or workshop, I'm not doing that kind of thing. Yes, I do help people with those. I had a client recently who was doing a workshop at a conference here in Nashville, and I took his whole presentation and taught him how to open, how to close, how to tell stories that tug at people's heart, how to do Q&A, and how to do effective PowerPoint presentation. So those are the kinds of things I coach people on, but also just a lot of people in sales. They need guidance on their sales presentation and how to improve that for the same reasons. And so I work with, there's a client from ADP that I work with who's very high performer in the company, earned incentive trips, and I've worked with her on her entire presentation to teach her how to make that more effective and get people to sign at the end and join. So the speaking part is not just public speaking in terms of workshops and keynotes. It can be speaking at a networking meeting and how to present your business. So it entails a lot.
It does. It sounds like you stay busy.
I do, but I love it.
So tell me, like, just kind of go back over some of the benefits. I heard you say from the stuff that you do, helping improve communication between different people in the business and the office, as well as, let me rephrase it, improving communication at business and at home, improving relationships, work relationships, and personal relationships, again, at work and home, right? Improving speaking skills, communication skills, presentation skills, sales skills, all those kind of things. Those are all things I think every business owner can benefit, you know. Yeah, I could do that. I could think of several more stories, but I'd rather hear your stories. Here's a good question, because I mean we talked about DISC a little bit before we got on, and I'm familiar with it. Give us a story about DISC and how you had people with different profiles learn how to bridge their work relationship,
Sure.
or work communication.
So there's an IT owner who I coach. I've coached him for about 3 years now. And one of the things that I have helped him with is how to better communicate with his team. He's a very high D, and that's all he is a very high D. There are no other letters.
That's all he is.
That's all he is. And so he's very much a D. Very, very direct, very cut to the chase kind of person. I don't want to hear the story behind it all. Just tell me the bottom line. And that's fine, except that his staff all thought he was mad at them most of the time because of his style. So I did the DISC with each one of them, and I taught them how to talk to him. Okay, bottom line it for him. Don't tell him a big long story. Tell him what the solution is that you've come up with. And then I had to teach him how to soften what he was saying to his employees so that he didn't come across as being too direct and them thinking he was mad at them all the time. So we had to teach some soft skills to him a little bit more, because when you're a high D, you're more task oriented. You're not people oriented. So you have to be mindful of those people skills. I have to do that as well. And so just being aware of that and how to soften that has made his relationships improve with his team. And then they know now how to talk to him to not frustrate him.
I get all that. I'm smiling and laughing because I identify a little bit, at least, with what you had to go through with him. And I'll tell you a story. But I've learned to read body language too in the workplace and at home. So when I moved to Nashville almost 8 years ago, I'm working with a CPA firm. And when I get in the workplace and I'm very task oriented and I'm driven and I work really fast and I'm just going I'm just bouncing from task to task to task.
Right.
And so I move really fast. I'm not a small guy when I'm walking through the workplace. And so I've had to learn that can create stress on other people without me even knowing about it. So hired a young lady to come work. I had a staff of 7 people doing all this accounting stuff, a lot of bean counters, right? And so she was right out of school. And so I forgot how old I was at the time, late 50s, and she's early 20s. I'm 6'2". She's 5 foot even, 5'1", probably not 100 pounds soaking wet. And I'm much more. So anyway, I'm walking through and she was looking at her computer screen, and you have all these cubicles and stuff. And I was just walking by. I didn't mean anything by it. And I said like, hey, what are you working on? And she looked like she was sitting down while I'm standing up. And so she looks up like she's looking up at the moon or something. But I saw her starting to shake a little bit. And she got a little nervous, and I recognized that, and she kind of stammered a little bit and said, well, I'm working on. And so I pulled up a chair, I sat down, I leaned back and crossed my legs, put my hands behind my head, looking very non-confrontational. And I said, how was your move to Nashville? And she said, oh, well, that's going great. I said, did you find a nice place to live? Yeah, I'm living so-and-so. And have you found some people to hang out with? Yeah, I've met some friends and all that. what have you done since you've got here? And we just talked about that for a while. And now she's talking, she's back at ease.
Right.
And then we got to a point and I said, "Hey, that looks really interesting what you're working at there. What is it? Tell me about what's going on." And then she jumped right in. She was just telling me all about the stuff she was doing. I said, "That looks great. You're doing a great job. Thanks a bunch." And I walked out. But I had to I had to again, Gary's got to adjust, right? But I had to adjust on right then. I noticed like, okay, boom, Gary, you got to dial this thing down, because otherwise she couldn't even hear what I was saying. And it wasn't my intention. I
Right.
learned this too from somebody a long time ago. Wasn't my intent, yet that was the impact that I was having.
Exactly.
And impact outweighs intent, And I say this, if you're driving a car and you go and you hit somebody else, you didn't intend to do that.
Right.
But the impact is you hit the car. And then you got to deal with that. And hopefully nobody got hurt and all that kind of stuff. So impact outweighs intent. And so we got to think about the impact we're having on other people. Yeah. So that was great. Good. All right. Anything else you could think of for business owners that would be helpful for them as far as those things you talked about? Communication, work relationships, accountability. You do a world of things. So any other kind of highlights you want to share? I try to keep these to about 30 minutes or so. And so we're kind of hit that. See, I told you we could fly really quickly.
Yeah.
But just give us some pointers, some hard hitting, impactful pointers to business owners that they could do that helps them improve all the above.
I think the thing I will leave you with is the balance between work and personal life. And a lot of business owners and CEOs struggle with time management.
Yeah.
And there's so much to be done, and there are never enough hours in the day. You could probably work every day all day long and still not get everything done that you want to accomplish. But you have to be very intentional about putting the things in your day that are meaningful to you, such as planning time with your spouse or your children, or time to go to the gym, or time to read, Gary, or whatever it might be. Right, I'm teasing you.
That's right.
But whatever it might be, if you don't plan that time and set that appointment for yourself with the things that are important to you, you will work all the time and you won't spend time doing those things. I was coaching a mortgage loan officer one time, and his grandkids came over certain days of the week at certain times. And he said, "I feel so guilty because I want to spend time with them but I have all these responsibilities and meetings." And I said, "When you're scheduling meetings, block off that time that you have for your grandchildren and don't schedule meetings during that time." And he said, "That's
right.
Okay." And I said, "Yes, you just tell everybody that you have another meeting scheduled. Your meeting is with your grandkids. They don't have to know who the meeting is with."
That's right.
And it was like a light bulb went off for him. He had never thought about that. So just teaching people how to balance their personal and their business life. And you're not going to spend equal amounts of time in each category. That's not physically possible.
Right.
But to spend enough time, the appropriate amount of time in each category, so each one doesn't get neglected.
Totally agree, 100%. There's I've worked on balance in my life forever, it seems like. And the reason for that, and I'll share this with you, it's a verse that meant a lot to me a long time ago. It's Luke 2:52, and it's simple. And it says, "Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man." And I bring that up to say he grew in 4 different areas. He grew in his relationship with God. He grew in relationship with other people. So you got spiritually, you've got socially, and he grew in wisdom mentally, and he grew in stature physically. So those are 4 areas, and I'm working on that forever, trying to find balance in those. But you have to be intentional and purposeful, about doing those things. And it's hard. It's hard to get it all done, because I gotta, do marketing, and I got to go do the work, and I got to onboard new clients, and I got to keep those clients and bill and collect, and then I've got to do stuff at home, and I got to go exercise, and somebody said I need to read, so I've got to do that. So it's hard it's
Hey,
hard to balance all those things.
it's on your calendar, you said, so
It's
I know it's important to you.
not only that, I've even bought the books. I just haven't read them, so I'll try to do that. Well, Stephanie, I'm going to say thanks. I could talk to you for hours, but thanks immensely for coming to be a part today. I'd love to have you back as a guest, and I want these podcasts to kind of evergreen and be good forever. But we're in December; it's in the Christmas season, holiday season. So, wish you and yours most wonderful Christmas and holiday season, and love to have you back.
Thank you. Same to you.
Okay, thanks a bunch.
Okay.